Then within the year, your mum
Yeah.
got really sick. She was one of 100 people to trial bone
Yes.
marrow transplant.
That's right. I mean, this was 1990.
Right.
A lot has changed. There's been a lot of progress in terms of treatment for bone cancers like multiple myeloma, which is what my mother had.
Right.
And multiple myeloma is rare in young women. And she
Right.
was only 43, so she was, at the younger end of the scale. And she, was one of the first 100 people to have a bone marrow transplant for multiple myeloma. So there really weren't other options.
Yeah.
And there was a very high probability that it would be unsuccessful or that she would actually die from the treatment. And unfortunately, that's what happened. And it's I always think of how brave she was and how courageous to take on something experimental like that, which was really tough on her.
Right.
Again, the treatments are better now, but it's very tough on the patients.
Yeah.
It's a really grueling thing to endure, to hope to be there for your family.
Yeah, yeah.
And for her, she was really determined to be around for us, for my
you guys.
sister,
Yeah.
for myself and my dad. So that taught me a lot about the importance of life, the fragility of life, and to not take things for granted, and just kind of how unpredictable life can be. Yeah.
Scary at times, isn't it? Do you remember where you were when they told you that your mum was sick?
I remember her coming home. No, I came home from school one day and my mum was at home and she'd just come from a doctor's appointment and had been told, the big C word, cancer, which must be terrifying to anyone to hear.
Yeah.
And I was just too young to really understand it. I remember thinking at the time, if you have cancer, they just cut it out.
Yep.
Do you know, there's something wrong, you go to surgery at hospital and they get rid of it for you. It's very young, I didn't understand. And I just remember how distraught she was, and I didn't quite get it. And I still didn't get it until she passed away. I just would go to the hospital and think, this must be a terrible mistake. This is my mom.
Yeah.
This is my mom. She has to be, she's invincible, and there just was no way that this could happen.
Yeah.
And I still felt like that right to the end.
You look at your parents as, so strong, so when you see them vulnerable or it's so confronting at any age,
Of course.
But at 16, which is a tough age in itself, and you lose your mum, how do you think that shaped you and has contributed to who you are today, something so full on happening at such a young age?
I think it was one of the biggest life-changing events for me, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd say it's probably the thing that has shaped me the most as an individual event. It's obviously really big for anyone to lose a parent or loved one of any kind. And that's always the case. And for me, there's just nothing else that has shaped me quite so much, because it taught me about the world in ways that you hope you don't have to learn until much later, if ever.
Yeah.
In a way. You hope people never really have to learn that lesson. But I learned very early that the world was not fair per se. That bad things also happen to good people, that loss can happen to people and it's undeserved. And that was a lesson I learned very early. And it's a lesson a lot of people who are, doctors, paramedics, police officers understand, but a lot of the rest of us don't like to think about.
No.
We like to think if we do all the right things, everything will be fine.
Yeah.
But, cancer can visit a family for no reason.
Yeah.
And it's not, because of health factors and lifestyle choices and those sorts of things. There's only so much you can do to prevent
Totally.
some of this. And so you have to just enjoy every day fully and be grateful that you're around, and be grateful that you have your health when you have it.
Totally.
And I think learning that, I was 15 when she first was diagnosed, and then 16 when she passed away. It was like something that really formed me. And also it lit a fire under me. I mean, my mum was proud of me and supportive of me, and she wanted big things for me. And when she passed away, I felt like I had to be true to her memory. I felt like she'd be disappointed if I just curled up in a ball and didn't get up again.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I think I probably threw myself at life even
100%.
harder as a result,
right.
a sort of almost kamikaze way of just throwing myself in, because I simply had to make something of myself.
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
that was, and I was very unfocused at that age. I didn't know what.
Yeah, but you just wanted to be doing
I just
something
had
for
to
her.
do something to make her proud and make my
Yeah.
father proud.
Yeah, because you're 40 now and your mum was 43 when she
Yeah.
passed. Can you believe that she was as young as
Yeah,
you?
so young.
Isn't
so
that
young.
so, it's sad. It just makes no sense, does it?
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
know?
mean, you don't ever want to have to bury a child, and that's what her parents had to do.
Yeah.
Twice.
Oh,
You know,
really?
they had 4 children and lost 2 of them before they passed on, and you know, it's unfair.
It's
Life
so
should never,
unfair.
you know, it just shouldn't be that way. But again, life isn't fair.
No.
And you know, it's something. It's not a very comforting thought, but it's an important thing to know, because simply because it injures our compassion if we continually imagine that the bad things that happen to people are deserved.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And I particularly think of this as as a crime writer, as someone who's researched in that area, and someone who's now writing about issues of social justice. What comes up again and again is this tendency for us to ignore other people's, tragedy and need, because it's much more comfortable to imagine it's deserved.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about people who are homeless, or are refugees, or victims of sexual assault, or have mental illness, all of these issues that are, really present in our community, it's much easier to kind of go, that'll never happen to me or anyone I love, because we'll do the right things and we'll be lucky. And it's just not that way.
No, because none of those things discriminate.
That's
they don't
exactly
just,
right.
Yeah, it's because my mum, just last night I was talking to mum, and we got into like a really quite a deep conversation. We're saying, what do we want? When we die, what do we want to happen? Because my nan passed a little while ago, and my mum said, I don't know what she wanted, so I want you to know what I want.
I'm sorry to hear that about your nan.
Oh no, she was the best. Bloody cancer again. It's just everywhere. And my mum has just overcome really full-on cancer as well. And we were looking through old photos too, and in my, like how I see things now is before cancer with mum and after cancer. And I feel at the moment that's almost defining my life. Like I looked at mum holding back my son, and I was like, you had cancer then and we didn't know. And then there's photos where we knew, and now there's where she's free, cancer free. But everything feels like it's defined by before and after cancer.
Well, health is so important, and people say that. It seems kind of meaningless until it touches your life in some way. And it's an important thing to remember for ourselves and others, that things aren't always the way you want them to be, and you need to be there for others and be compassionate when things touch their lives, because one day it could be you.
I know.